Hi, and welcome to She's the Boss, the show that is all about female founders and women doing extraordinary things in business. Now, today I'm very excited because I have a very good friend of mine who is also an incredible entrepreneur. Her name is Katrina McCarter. Now, Katrina has got a new program that's coming out that we're going to talk about. She's the founder of Partnership Mastery, and I'm telling you, this woman knows her partnerships. But she's also known for the businesses she's run called Marketing to Mums and also Pablo Deals. The other thing that Katrina is doing incredibly well is writing books. So she's a best-selling author, an advisor, and an international keynote speaker. Whew, what a lot of accomplishments you've had, Katrina.
Wow, that sounds exhausting. But can I say it was a lot of fun, and a very big thank you for having me along, Jules. It's great to be able to have a natter with you.
Oh, no, it's my absolute pleasure. So let's start off with Partnerships Mastery, because I'm really interested to know what you're doing now and why you pivoted. Well, yeah. I hate that word, but you know what I mean.
It's not so much a pivot, it's more an add-on. And what was happening was that I had Marketing to Mums. So that's really what I'm known for, a consultancy that helps businesses attract more mothers and families to their business. And I grew that on partnerships, so collaborating with other people that had the same audience. And I also did that with my first business, which was Bubbler. And through those collaborations, I was able to create a community of 150,000 mums across Australia. And I never spent more than $300 a month on my marketing activities. And so what was happening was that I was getting these little reach outs from, other entrepreneurs and other business owners saying, hey, can you please negotiate some partnerships for me? I've been watching what you're doing and I want you to help me do them. And I started to get quite a number of these kind of approaches. And initially I was starting to broker them on behalf of businesses. And I thought, it'd be so much better if I taught them how to do them themselves.
So, what can I say? But that's obviously something very close to my heart. I'm a big believer in empowering business owners to do it themselves.
Absolutely. Because I could negotiate one partnership for them, but they just gives them that one partnership. But if I can teach them the skills to do it themselves, then they can turn that into new revenue streams. They can increase their profitability. They could do incredible things with it. And so that led me to create a program that I've been quietly running on a needs to know basis for the past 2 years.
Ooh, all a little bit secret.
It has been a little hush hush because I've been really concerned about, making sure that my core business has been marketing to mums. But things shifted over COVID, and I found increasing numbers of people asking me for some help. And so much so that I have now established it as a business in its own right. So,
woohoo!
Yeah.
Well done.
Partnership Mastery is launching, and it's a 6-week program. And I'm teaching business owners how to identify and negotiate their own partnerships for themselves. And I'm using kind of the same proposals and the same steps that I take for all of my partnerships. I'm showing them how to do it, effectively kind of opening up my little black suitcase.
Well, it sounds amazing. So let's go back into your previous businesses and let's talk about partnerships and how you actually did make them work. So shall we start with Pablo Deals? Just explain what that is for anyone that doesn't know that business.
Yeah, look, Pablo Deals launched in January 2012, and that was an online shopping website. So it was the beginning of the deal site. So if anyone remembers Scoopon and Groupon, this was effectively a deal site that was tailored just for families. And I launched...
Very clever of you.
Yeah, well, it came about because I was playing cards with my girlfriends one night, and they were all talking about these great cheap massages they were getting. And I'm like, what on earth are you women talking about? And they said, oh, are you not on Scoopon? And so I went off and investigated it. And I really watched these businesses for 6 months. And I went, you know what? No one's catering for that family market. I really want to jump into business. I was 39. I had 3 kids and no money. So I had to go off and capital raise and get the funds to launch it. And I did that.
That's very impressive because that's hard enough to do, as we know, in Australia and all around the world.
Well, at that time, there weren't a whole lot of support services there for females wanting to enter business. It was a very blokey town in Perth, which is where I was at the time in the startup scene. So I had a number of very embarrassing kind of awkward coffees, pitching my idea because I didn't know how to do it. But, I worked it out and I got my money together. I launched the business within 6 months and I was terrified of spending money because effectively I had these shareholders. I was really cautious about investing in marketing. And I remember doing one print ad and I paid $300 for it. And there were absolute crickets. And I thought, I may as well.
Doesn't that just break your heart? Anybody who does, it really breaks my heart because one ad's not going to do anything either. It's only one. You've got to keep doing more of them.
But I didn't get that at the time. Yeah. This was 10 years ago. It was the beginning of my journey. And I may as well have thrown that $300 out the window. And I remember getting on the phone because there were very few female business owners in Perth at that time. I got on the phone. I reached out to another woman who had launched a parenting website as well. And we got just chatting one Friday night, I think it was, and we kind of exchanged our startup stories. And then kind of off the cuff, I said, look, would you want to do a joint competition together? And, the mode of entry can be that they need to sign up to both of our newsletters. I will find a good prize sponsor. And she said, yeah, I'm in. She said, but let's go and ask someone else as well. So I put on my big girl pants and I reached out to the biggest parenting site in Australia at the time. And I spoke to their founder and I said, look, the two of us are getting together. If I secure a really great prize sponsor, would you be interested in joining? And to my surprise, she actually said yes. And I spent the next 3 weeks negotiating 2 Thermomixes.
Amazing. Can I just stop you there for a second though, because I think that's something that we should focus on a little bit for women, that they think that, reaching out to a really big organization, that they're just going to be brushed aside. But just your story, just telling us that you went to, you're a small business, you go to the biggest parenting website and they say yes. I just sort of wanted to touch on that a bit because people think that they're too small and that they can't try these things. And look what happened to you.
I can't tell you how generous she was with her time with me. And that really gave me the confidence to do a lot more of that kind of reach out. And I still do that to this day. I have no problems jumping on the phone and making a cold approach. So to my surprise, this business owner said, yes, we're in. We ran this competition over 10 days. So we were 3 businesses that were targeting the same audience, but we weren't in direct competition with each other. Yep. And we ran this competition and I added more than 7,000 new members to my website. And it had cost me $50 for the graphics and my time to coordinate and negotiate these, the prize sponsor and coordinate the competition.
Well, Thermomixes as well, being what they were back in those days, you must have, I'm not surprised that you had thousands of women that wanted to win the opportunity.
But for me, it was a complete revelation that I could invest $50 and some of my time negotiating it, and I could add that kind of number of members. So for me to give you some context, if I had done that through paid activities, it would have cost me well in excess of $10,000 at the time.
Oh, easily, I would have thought. Yeah, brilliant. And so when you negotiated that partnership, what did they do in return for you? Was it just promoting the competition, or were they offering part of the prize, or how did it work?
It was all about the mode of entry was that every entrant had to sign up to to our databases. So so we each had to promote the competition a certain amount of times through our social media and also our newsletter, and that in itself we all benefited, and that was the beauty of it. So what was wonderful was that we all kind of had great results from that activity. And for me, I went, there's something in this. So my key strategy then was to collaborate with other businesses that weren't in competition with me, that shared that same audience. And I replicated that same kind of joint competition and collaborative approach over 5 years. And that's what allowed me to grow my community to 150,000 mums across Australia. And without investing a whole lot of money. And I've taken that into my next business that was marketing to mums, and I used partnerships in a very different way there. So
yeah, well, just explain a little bit about what marketing to mums was. I mean, other than obviously you were helping people, but was it a course? I know you wrote a book about it.
Sure. Yeah. Look, it was a consultancy. So I was coming in, I was doing things from coaching. There is a program that I run, but a lot of it is direct consulting work. And it's
Right.
really helping them identify who is their most profitable segment of the mum market. And it's helping them build the strategy to attract more of that kind of mum into their business. So it's all
Brilliant.
about learning how to drive sales and profit into your business by getting more mothers and their families into your business. So,
And you're so smart, because hardly anyone was doing it in those days, and yet so clearly, and we know this from ad agencies and everything else, women are the ones who hold the purse strings in the family. So they're nearly all the time either involved in the decision making or making it themselves.
well, what I found was when I had Bubbler, there was this huge kind of penny dropping moment where I could really see that women were so unhappy with the way that brands and businesses were kind of communicating with them. And
Yep.
I would receive copy and advertising from my advertising partners, so brands and businesses. And I would just look at it and go, this is not going to land with my audience. So there was this clear gap in the market and no one was catering for it. So I went off and I did a really big survey. We surveyed more than 1,800 of our mums and asked them, what are businesses getting wrong? Do you think businesses understand you? And our key finding was that 63% of Australian mothers believed that businesses and brands didn't understand them. And that's when I went, okay, I'm launching Marketing to Mums now, my consulting business. And that's how that business came about. Still very much going, and I'm still very research-based. So every year I do 2 research projects, having a look at Australian mothers' behaviours and motivations, because it is changing rapidly. And I'm always astounded by how slow a lot of businesses and brands are to understand those changes. So that's something that I track.
Why am I not surprised? It's funny you say that you were surprised at how slow they are, but, I still look at television, for instance, and just think it's broken, and it's been broken for a while, and yet I don't see any innovation. So I'm kind of not surprised, and I do think it takes someone like you to drag them into the 21st century and make them realise what they're missing out on, and also how to communicate with those people. So did you do partnerships through the Marketing to Mums business as well?
Yeah, and I continue to do them in the Marketing to Mums business. So straight up, when I launched that business, I actually wrote my first book, and that is Marketing to Mums, and it's a how-to book. It's for small business owners that spend less than $10,000 a year on advertising.
Right.
And for me, launching my book, I had incredible imposter syndrome. This thought that I was putting out a book, it had never been on my agenda, but my mentor had tapped me on the shoulder and said, Katrina, it's time to write a book. And I was terrified. And I wanted to make sure that I had a sensational editor to help me get my thought, to make sure that I put something out in the world that I could be really, really proud of. So by chance, I was asking around through my personal network, through my professional network, who's a really great editor. And I was at basketball training one night and I asked the basketball mums, I said, who knows a really great editor? And someone said, look, I do. And it happened to be Andrea McNamara, who had recently left Penguin as one of their publishers. So I'd secured this wonderful editor, but obviously that comes at a price tag. And I was looking for innovative ways to cover the production and cost of my book. So I actually used a partnership there, and I partnered with Xero, the accounting people, because I knew,
smart.
I knew that they would be wanting to connect with a female audience, because women are entering business at 3 times the rate of men and have been for well over a decade. So I knew it had to be an audience for them, and I knew that that's where my audience really was, and I knew that my book was likely to land with women who were targeting mothers as their customers, and that's precisely what happened. So about 95% of my book sales have been to female founders who are targeting mums. So that worked really well. I've also done it to launch my books. So I launched my last book, The Mother of All Opportunities, in New York at the world's leading event for marketing specialists in the
And I just have to say congratulations for that, because there's not a lot of Aussie women go, oh, I'm going to go to New York to launch my book. So I love it that you think big.
All the time. I'm very much about being bold. It's one of my catch cries that I live by. And I launched that from the stage. I was invited to do the opening keynote, and everyone who attended that conference actually got a copy of the book, and we also had a signing. So that was a lot of fun, and it was great to be amongst my international peers to launch that book as well.
Yeah, fantastic.
But I've also used it for things like dressing me for my speaking events. I've used it to generate...
Oh, no, hang on, stop, because that is so interesting. And I know Kate Christie, who's a mutual friend of ours, managed to get a really well-known brand to partner with her, and I think with a bit of your help, to dress her for her event. So tell me a little bit more about that, because I think that's every woman's dream. And I did get someone to dress me for a short while for this show, and I'm sort of currently negotiating. But I don't reckon that very many women would think of that.
Well, look, I will say Kate Christie gave me the inspiration. I didn't help her.
It wasn't the other way around.
It wasn't. In this occasion, it wasn't. But what was happening was that I was building my speaker business at that time. I was doing a lot of speaking, and I continue to do so. And I was wearing this one designer, and there was a particular designer I liked because I hate ironing. And
I'm with you.
And I was traveling, and so she has these great wrap dresses that I could literally roll in a ball, throw in my bag, travel, arrive at my destination, put on my dress, look great, didn't need any ironing, and I felt fantastic in them. And I thought, look, surely if I'm wearing this gear, I could speak to them about collaborating. And I reached out to the designer, and I heard crickets. But crickets don't deter me. And I then found another way in, and spoke to another contact there, or spoke to another department. And for a 6 to 9 month period, they were dressing me for all my key speaking engagements, including my trip to New York. So it was a great way to profile this Australian designer on the international stage as well.
When you're negotiating clothing, what do you offer in return?
Well, the opportunity to be photographed in their gear. They definitely always wanted me to wear new season gear, so it was an opportunity to say
nice
I really like that. But they would send it up, and then I would wear it and I would send it back. So it wasn't stuff that I was necessarily keeping.
And one of the things that I know that Kate talked about was when she spoke, she put vouchers for the brand that she was sponsored by on all the seats, so offering a discount or whatever to encourage all of the audiences to go to those stores as well. Did you negotiate something like that as well?
No, I didn't need to. So it was very much, I found that people often asked me anyway, who am I wearing? Or I did do some social media posts about how easy I found their clothes.
Right.
It's all about what you negotiate. So what I'm all about is understanding where my value is and what value I can offer for them, so that there's a mutual exchange of value that's taking place between my business and their business, or it might be multiple businesses at the same time.
Yeah.
And people often say, what are the rules? And I'm very much, there are no rules. It's very much about what you negotiate. And that for a lot of people can be quite overwhelming, because they're not sure where to start, and they're not sure about what it is that they could really offer that would be valued, or what it is that they could ask for. And that's very much what my program's been about.
Right. I love it. Okay, so you got the clothing, and you're going forward with the Marketing to Mums with all these partnerships. So what are you going to do with your partnership mastery? What's the big, hairy, audacious goal out of that?
My big, hairy, audacious goal is to really go global with that program. It's very much about, this is a skill that it doesn't matter whether you're in the B2B space, whether you're in a B2C space. It's really about empowering small business owners. And I very much love working with the small business owners, because they're nimble, they're willing to invest in their professional development, and they will do the work. And that provides me with incredible joy. So I get a real kick out of hearing from my clients to say, hey, I've just secured this, or I've just negotiated that. I get an incredible buzz out of that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I feel the same way when someone gets in the media, and I'm like, I'm more excited than getting in myself, just to see them and how happy they are. So, so the big plan is to get all these other people doing it. Are there any other sort of challenges that you've had along the way that you've learned from? Are there any kind of other light bulb moments that you want to share with us about the launch of this business?
Well, for me, it really draws back to that 10 years ago when I did that very first joint partnership. That joint competition, that for me was the massive light bulb moment that I went.
Right.
And what I loved about that was that it could just be replicated over and over again with a number of different communities, different audiences. So for me, what I've found is that there's incredible almost efficiency in terms of your marketing by just working out your partnership formula and being able to replicate that into different audiences. So that's very much something that I look at for them.
Can I just ask you these days? So I know 10 years ago you could ask people to sign up to an email campaign and they go, oh, it's free. That's all I have to do. Give my email address. Do you find a bit of resistance now? Because I know a lot of people are kind of like, I'm overwhelmed with newsletters.
Yeah.
So does that mechanic work, or are there better ideas these days?
Oh, there are lots of different ideas. I'm finding increasingly I'm working with service-based owners.
Right.
And what we're doing is a lot of work around leads. And so what we're often looking for are distribution partners. They're people that might have that audience that we might be able to collaborate with that's going to provide some mutual gain. An example might be if I am a marketing to mums speaker and I might collaborate with someone who has a massive community of mortgage brokers, for example. And I might come in and I might do a presentation for that group that then allows that person who's got the community of mortgage brokers to be bringing in a key expert to increase the knowledge base of their membership, but also they would then go on and promote one of my services or one of my programs to that group as well, so that I can generate leads from that presentation.
Nice.
So
I like it. So it's a bit of a win-win.
That's a simple way, but it depends very much on what someone's business objectives are. And so that's always where we start. It is, what is it that you are trying to get done first and foremost? Because your partnerships that you seek need to be serving your business objectives. Otherwise, they're a waste of time.
Yeah, no, that makes enormous sense. And I think the other thing is I would encourage people anyway to think outside the square in terms of how are we sharing these audiences. Yesterday I did a talk on Clubhouse and there was a guy from the UK that came along and I was talking about PR and he was saying he wanted to talk about mental health for dads and for guys, and he'd gone all down this route of male media, blah, blah, blah. And I said, have you ever thought about going to the women? Because it's probably their partners that are going to push them into, going and doing something about their mental health and speaking to someone. And he was like, God, I'd never even thought of that. So I think it's really important. And certainly when I do PR, I'm always talking about those niche markets, but thinking outside the box, how can you get to people? And the classic one that I use in my PR is if you wanted to get to CEOs, why wouldn't you target the EAs? Because they're the ones who are making the decisions, really.
Absolutely. So you and I share that same view, and I talk about that being you need to have an opportunity mindset. So you need to be looking for the other opportunities and the unexpected opportunities and how to find those. And that's a really different way of thinking. There's some people that I work with that will purely come along to learn a new way of thinking.
Just that aspect of it,
and
right.
to see that the new opportunities that perhaps they've allowed to go missing before or have been overlooked before.
Right. Well, listen, Katrina, I think this course is very badly needed. I think that partnerships are a wonderful way to grow your business, and you've shown that time and time again with your own businesses. Now, if anyone wants to get in touch with you about this course or any of the other things that you're doing, what's the best way for them to get hold of you?
Best way to get hold of me is jump over to the website, which is just launched. It's partnershipmastery.global. Otherwise, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Katrina McCarter, and I'd love to have a chat.
Fantastic. Well, listen, thank you so much for being my guest. I love talking with you always. And so it's been an absolute pleasure. I have no doubt at all that this business is absolutely going to take off for you. So thank you very much for joining me and telling me a little bit more about it today.
A really big thanks. It's always wonderful having a chat to you, Jules. Thanks very much for having me.
My absolute pleasure. And for those of you watching, if you've enjoyed this episode, please will you like, comment, and ideally subscribe to the channel. If you're interested in knowing some of the other things that I'm doing with She's the Boss, we have She's the Boss Chats podcast. We have lunches that we do for female founders and all sorts of other initiatives. Go to shestheboss.com.au and you'll be able to get hold of all of that and get hold of me if you'd like to speak to me.